Welcome to Stripes and Stories, a show about what it is to be a Pryor Typer. I'm your host, Tina James. Today we're talking with Dr. Lisa Muller, Pryor Superintendent, to catch up on district news and updates. Good morning, Dr. Muller.
Good morning. I'm excited to be one of the early guests on our new district podcast.
We're really happy to have you. So I hear that we've got some updates on academic performance in the district. As most of our listeners know, COVID had a significant impact on our students, an impact that happened across the nation. Students experienced setbacks in their reading, their math, their writing scores. And I understand that recently we've received some encouraging test results from the state. Could you let us know a little bit about that?
Sure. You are absolutely right that COVID influenced so many things in our lives, and schooling was one of those that was really affected. And even though here in Pryor, we were not out of school for an extended period of time like some students were in other parts of the country, we still had a really disrupted school year, especially that first year back. I hate to even talk about it right now, but you'll remember there were quarantines and isolating and all of the different requirements that we were operating under to be back in school in person. And that led to students being in and out of school more than they typically are in a year, a lot of distance learning, things like that. And we know that having our students here in the district with their classroom teachers is the most effective method of learning. And we're really excited that over the last 2 years, we've seen that return more to what we were used to prior to the pandemic. And when I came to Pryor and was able to look across the district, all of the great things that were happening, one of the areas that I recognized that I wanted to focus on coming into this new role as superintendent was what was happening day in and day out with our teaching and learning practices. That's my background. Before becoming superintendent at Pryor, I was the associate superintendent over teaching and learning and educational programs at my previous district. I was a classroom teacher and a principal who focused on the academic side during the time I was a high school principal. So that stood out to me as an area that we could probably deepen our work in and really look at what's happening in our day-to-day practice and how is that affecting our students and their learning. So we have dug in over the last few years. This is my fourth year now in Pryor, and over the last 3 years, we put a number of different things in place that I really appreciate our teaching and learning department here at the district level, as well as our school leadership and our teachers in the classroom for committing to looking at what are we doing to really promote the most effective learning practices. So we are starting to see results from that, as you mentioned, and we had both improvements in our state test scores, but also in some of the national measures that we look at the high school level. We have the ACT as well as the advanced placement or AP testing that happens at that level, and we are seeing strong improvement trends on all of those measures. I know that there was a lot of discussion when the state test scores came out about whether that was a result of cut score adjustments or what that really meant. And there were some changes at the state level with cut scores. Go ahead.
Could you explain a little bit to our parents about cut scores?
Sure. So the State Department of Education for many, many years has had a process where after the testing takes place in the spring, they pull a group of teacher leaders and experts in, and they look at those questions that were asked and where they judge them to be as far as the level of difficulty, whether mastering that question means that a student is performing at the basic level, performing at the on grade level, whether they're performing above grade level, and they identify where the benchmark should be for determining that a student is proficient for that subject area and that grade level.
So I'm hearing a benchmark score then is a certain score that lets the teachers in the district and the parents and the community know that this child has reached a certain level of proficiency.
That's correct. So we have 4 levels in Oklahoma, and students, after they take those tests, they get a report that says they're either proficient, they might be advanced. The basic level is really kind of confusing, I know, to some people because
I've heard that
seems like they would be below grade level, but actually the top portion of the basic band of proficiency is right around grade level. And then they could be below basic. So those are the 4 categories that we see. And this year there was some adjustment, particularly we saw it more in the reading test, that the cut score, which is where that benchmark is, that's what's referred to as the cut score, that was lowered a little bit. So that some students who in the past years would have fallen into that basic category now are falling into the proficient category. So that was what you may have seen on the news and in some of the coverage. I actually think that was an appropriate change. We had a change a number of years ago in Oklahoma to really significantly bump up the cut scores. And while I am all for high standards, in fact, we talk about rigor and being sure we have high expectations for students, it wasn't truly reflecting what grade level performance was. So I think this is a good change, even though it's gotten a lot of coverage in the press that may not necessarily have been positive.
So I've heard that with this change that we're now on let's say a more level playing field with the surrounding states.
Right. I would agree. We were significant. Our cut scores were significantly higher than all of our surrounding states. We use a screener called iStation, and the company had told us that in order for our students to likely score proficient on our state tests, that they were needing to get about 10 points higher than any of the other surrounding states students were needing to hit on that screener. So we knew that the cut score in Oklahoma was higher, which meant that it looked like fewer of our students were proficient when compared to surrounding states. So this is a positive, I think, without going to a point where I would say that we are, quote, lowering our standards. I think we're hitting more of where we should be on that. And really that was mostly in reading. We didn't see as much of a change in math.
Okay. Well, I know that iStation is a word that's out there quite a bit, or a term that's out there quite a bit with our elementary students, so I'm sure parents will appreciate some information on that. What about math? You kind of talked about math a little bit.
Yes. So I really didn't talk a lot about, we got into talking about the cut scores. I didn't talk about how we determined whether our students were performing better than they had in the past with this cut score change.
Oh, yes, we need to go back on that.
We did this on both reading and math, and it's relevant here as well. So when we learned about the cut score changes, we wanted to be sure that the improvement we were seeing was true improvement and not just because of some of the adjustments with the cut scores. So we looked at our growth in Pryor as compared to the growth at the state level. And we did exceed that growth as a district in both reading and math. So we were excited to see that, yes, although the state grew partially because of the cut score change, Pryor students grew even more than that. So we were really pleased to see that we are exceeding that rate of growth. And we think that our investment in professional development and our investment in the early release time that we have on Fridays, where we do a lot of data analysis and work together to improve what's happening in the classroom, those things are paying off.
Well, that's really good news for our students here in the district. So, what about those national measures that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, so we talked about the state tests, which the state tests really only affect our students in grades 3 through 8. And the earlier childhood grades are not tested on state tests. We do, of course, our own testing within the district and looking at their progress. But the state tests start at third grade. And then when students get to high school, they take the ACT, and that happens in the 11th grade year for our high school testing. We did also see substantial growth, particularly in our reading and English language scores. And those are actually two separate pieces on the ACT. So one really focuses on reading and reading comprehension, and the other is more like grammar and usage and things like that. So we saw some really strong growth in those areas, and we continue to see growth in math and science as well since that dip that we experienced during the pandemic. So that's a national measure I know that a lot of people are familiar with. Also, the advanced placement program. We saw an increase in our number of students who were taking the advanced placement exams. That is something that when you take an AP course in high school, you have the opportunity at the end of that course to sit for a national and actually international exam that the advanced placement organization gives every spring. And if you score a 3, 4, or 5, then you're likely to get college credit for that AP course. And we saw not only an increase in the number of students who were taking the test, but also a significant increase in the number who were scoring that 3 or better. So we're excited to see the growth in our high school performance as well.
So, other exciting things are happening around the district this week as well. I know that our Pryor Tigers are preparing for some special visitors, and this is really an important event. Roosevelt Elementary was just named a legacy school. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what's going on with the legacy celebration?
Yes, I am really excited about a lot of things in the Leader in Me program. As you mentioned, Roosevelt has been named a legacy school, and that is a very impressive distinction. There are only a handful of legacy schools in the world, and we are so excited to have one here in Pryor. It represents the commitment to the Leader in Me program over a number of years. In order to be even considered to be a legacy school, a school has to have been named a lighthouse school for multiple years, at least 8 years. And it's common in education, unfortunately, to see initiatives sort of come and go. And one of the pieces that I am really proud of about Pryor is our commitment to staying the course with the Leader in Me program. And that not only is evident at Roosevelt, that now is leading us in the district to being recognized as a legacy school, but it's apparent in all of our schools here in the district. We, at the same time that we went through the process to determine whether Roosevelt would be receiving the legacy school honor, we also went through the recertification process at all of our other schools. And we are officially the first district in the world to achieve recertification for all of our schools. So a number of years ago, we actually became the first district to have all of our schools become lighthouse schools, which means they're a model of implementation for the Leader in Me program. And now 3 years later, we have done it again. So it's really exciting to see all of our schools across the district committed to this program and it making a big difference in the lives of our students and the climate and culture in our schools across the district. But we're particularly proud of the legacy recognition for Roosevelt this week.
This is indeed a busy week for Tigers. After the legacy celebration on Thursday, we're gearing up for a traditional homecoming ceremony and game. And as I understand, this may be the last year for the homecoming on the current field. How is the new Tiger Stadium progressing?
The stadium is progressing really well. We did have some rain and weather early on in the construction during the time that they were doing a lot of the groundwork, and that slowed us down a little bit. As much as I appreciate rain, and I know we're always looking for rain in the summer, having a nice dry stretch of time has really helped with the construction team catching up out at the stadium. And you can see now, if you drive by, you can see that things are coming out of the ground now. There's always so much work in preparation. And I know a lot of people had questions about, well, when is this going to start? And so I'm very happy that now you can watch the progress, whether you're driving by and looking from the street, or we also on our website are posting videos, and we have drone footage from above that is really cool to look at to track the progress of the stadium.
And we want to say thank you to Nicholas Rowland for that drone footage. It really does help everyone understand how the progress is coming, how the build is going out there on the stadium.
Yes, Nicholas has done such a good job with that, and it's a reflection of some of our other programs in the district. The drone program is one of the pieces of our aviation program that we offer at the high school level. So Nicholas has been a student in that program and is putting his skills to great use for us.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about what's going on around the district today, Dr. Muller. We really appreciate your help and just going over these subjects with us.
Well, I'm glad to have been here. It's always fun to talk about everything that's happening in the district. We have so many great things going on here at Pryor Public Schools.